On the day I gave birth, I witnessed with my own eyes as my best friend secretly switched our daughters at the hospital. I pretended not to know. I took her daughter home and raised her with loving care. 18 years later, my best friend's daughter, under my nurturing, was accepted into Harvard. Meanwhile, my own daughter, abused day and night by my best friend, was left disabled. On the day of the college celebration, my best friend approached me with her disabled daughter and a DNA test report. The hospital mixed up our babies back then. Now, it's time to switch them back. I smiled cryptically and replied, fine. Emma, I brought some fresh eggs from my mom's farm upstate. I thought you and Lily might enjoy them, my best friend Rachel said, as she had done countless times before. Ever since I had taken her daughter home to raise, she found endless excuses to visit. Sometimes she claimed to want to discuss parenting techniques. Other times she insisted our daughters should play together for companionship. She'd even knocked on my door in the middle of the night, saying she'd had nightmares about Lily being in danger and needed to check on her. My husband Mark complained frequently that in all these years, Rachel visited our home more regularly than he clocked in for work. To facilitate these visits, Rachel had even rented an apartment in our complex. She claimed it was because best friends should live close to each other for continuous companionship, but I knew the truth. She wanted to keep constant watch over her daughter Lily. I never exposed her real motive and simply opened the door for her as usual. She stood there in an elegant, fashionable dress, holding a basket of farm eggs. Behind her was a thin, battered young girl with bruises on her face. That was my daughter. Rachel had named her Casey. As soon as she entered, Rachel put down the basket and rushed toward Lily. Lily, tomorrow's your birthday. What present would you like? Godmother will buy you anything. Rachel and I had known each other for many years with a deep friendship. After having children, she immediately became Lily's godmother. Now, as she gently stroked Lily's head, her affection was plainly visible. Lily gave a sweet smile and politely replied, I'll love anything Godmother buys me. Hearing this, Rachel's smile grew even more intense. Lily is so smart and sweet, unlike that worthless child of mine who's stupid and dull. She finished with a harsh glare toward her daughter at the door, then grabbed her by the ear and pulled her inside. Get in here. Why are you standing at the door like a guard dog? I don't know who you take after, with your worthless nature. Just looking at you makes me angry. With that, Rachel slapped her daughter hard across the face right in front of me, sending her crashing to the floor. The girl's head hit the coffee table, cutting open her forehead, which began bleeding profusely. Lily jumped in surprise. But my daughter neither cried nor made a fuss. She quickly got up. Accustomed to such treatment, she wiped the blood from her forehead. Wincing in pain, she timidly addressed Rachel. I'm sorry, Mom. I know I was wrong. Apologizing after being hit was something my daughter had to repeat daily. It had happened countless times here in our home. Witnessing this, Mark quickly retrieved the first aid kit. While stopping the bleeding, he angrily said to Rachel, Rachel, how can you, as a mother, hit your own child so brutally? Rachel replied indifferently, who told her to be born so worthless? She doesn't have half of Lily's qualities. I'm being generous by not beating her to death. With that, Rachel ignored her daughter completely and returned to Lily with a beaming smile. Lily, Godmother has ordered your favorite ice queen cake for your birthday tomorrow. I'll bring it over for your celebration. Thank you, Godmother, Lily responded politely, maintaining her usual attitude toward Rachel's favoritism. Seeing this, my daughter gathered her courage and spoke feebly, Mom, tomorrow is my birthday too. Could you please buy me a new pair of shoes? I couldn't help but look down at her feet, noticing she wore filthy, worn-out sandals with completely flat soles. These sandals had been Lily's discards from the previous year. Rachel had picked them up, saying Casey deserved only what Lily no longer wanted. She'd worn them for an entire year. Even now in the dead of winter, with her feet covered in chilblains, she still wore these sandals. You worthless piece of trash, you deserve nothing but worn-out shoes. And you dare mention your birthday? Do you even deserve one? With that, Rachel unleashed another barrage of blows on my daughter. Screams of abuse and cries of pain filled the room. I watched this scene coldly, without saying a word. Mark kept trying to intervene, and even Lily helped plead for mercy. Seemingly afraid of upsetting Lily, Rachel finally dragged her daughter away from our home. The next day was Lily's birthday. Rachel eagerly arrived with gifts and cake, knocking on our door. When Mark noticed no one was behind her, he asked puzzledly, Where's Casey? Today is her birthday too. Why didn't she come? Rachel replied nonchalantly, Oh her? I broke her leg yesterday when we got home. She's still unconscious. Rachel's tone was light, with the corners of her mouth even curling into a proud smile. As if breaking my daughter's leg was something to boast about. She ignored Mark's horrified expression and pushed her way inside, placing the gifts and cake before Lily with obvious fawning. "Lily, sweetie, today is your birthday. Godmother absolutely won't let anything unpleasant ruin your day." When Lily accepted the gifts, she accidentally revealed a small cut on the back of her hand. Seeing it, Rachel's face instantly darkened. She angrily reproached me. "Emma, what's this about? How could you let Lily injure her hand?" I responded expressionlessly, "Children get bumps and bruises all the time. Isn't your daughter covered in injuries every day?" Hearing this, Rachel immediately shouted at me furiously, "How dare you compare that worthless girl with Lily? Lily is..." She seemed to realize her reaction was too extreme and abruptly stopped. She took a deep breath to calm herself and earnestly said to me, "What I mean is, Lily has been pampered and sheltered since birth, far more precious than that worthless child of mine. You must take special care of her." Hearing this, Mark snorted coldly and complained, "You've got some nerve saying that. If you hadn't violently beaten your daughter here yesterday, leaving blood all over our floors, Lily wouldn't have volunteered to clean up and cut her hand." Hearing this, Rachel looked at Lily and asked, "Lily, is that true?" Lily nodded and said earnestly, "Yes, I wanted to help Mom and Dad with the housework." Hearing this, Rachel's heart ached. Sometimes you don't need to be so thoughtful. Let your parents handle the hard work around the house. Your only job in this family is to enjoy life, understand? With that, Rachel quickly began organizing Lily's birthday celebration. From cooking to decorating, she handled everything personally. After everyone was well fed, she eagerly asked Lily, "Tell Godmother, do you have any wishes? Godmother will definitely help you fulfill them." Without hesitation, Lily replied, "I want to get into Harvard." Rachel stroked Lily's head with satisfaction. "That's something Godmother can't help you with, but with your intelligence, you'll definitely get into Harvard. When you do, Godmother will give you an unforgettable surprise." Looking at Rachel's eyes overflowing with love, I couldn't help but smile imperceptibly. "An unforgettable surprise? My dear friend, I prepared one for you too." Every year on Lily's birthday, Rachel was more enthusiastic than Mark and me. As for my daughter, after that time when her leg was broken, she never appeared before me again. Whenever Mark asked about her, Rachel would say with disgust, "Don't mention that unlucky wretch to me. Just thinking about her makes me angry." Because of Rachel's deliberate avoidance of the topic, I didn't see my daughter again until Lily was accepted into Harvard. At Lily's college acceptance celebration, Rachel arrived at the banquet hall with my limping daughter. She took out a DNA test report she had prepared in advance and handed it to me in front of all our relatives and friends. "Emma, Casey has been having health problems lately. When I took her for a checkup, I discovered she's not my daughter. The hospital mixed up our babies back then. Casey is your child, and Lily is actually my biological daughter. We've been separated from our flesh and blood for so many years. Now, it's time for me to reunite with my real daughter. The girls must be switched back." As she spoke, Rachel squeezed out a few tears, looking at Lily with motherly love and guilt. She pretended to be a victim who had endured endless hardship and bitterness all these years. Hearing this, the entire hall erupted in whispers. They finally raised such an accomplished Harvard student, and now they have to hand her over? Everyone knows how much Emma has sacrificed for Lily over the years. Lily got into Harvard largely thanks to Emma's guidance. These 18 years of blood, sweat, and emotional investment can't just be erased. Yes, who could bear to give up a child in this situation? One was a bright, well-mannered Harvard student raised for 18 years. The other was a disheveled, emaciated, disabled girl who could barely walk. Anyone would prefer the former. But amid the murmurs, I smiled cryptically and said, "Fine. Since there was a mistake, we should indeed switch them back." My words shocked everyone. Rachel's eyes widened in astonishment, apparently surprised that I would agree so readily. Even Mark looked at me in disbelief. "Emma, have you lost your mind? You're going to give Lily to Rachel based on her word alone and a DNA test that might be fake?" My mother-in-law also anxiously said, "Yes, Emma, how can you make such a serious decision without thoroughly investigating? This is too rash." Faced with their doubts and opposition, I stated directly, "Lily is indeed her child. I saw the babies being switched with my own eyes back then." My words stunned the entire room. Mark jumped up in agitation. "Impossible. You've always been frail, and you nearly died from hemorrhaging when you gave birth to this child. You said this child was more important to you than your own life. If you cared so much about her, how could you possibly watch her being abused without intervening? You must be lying." I looked at Mark and said matter-of-factly, "During the birth, I saw a butterfly birthmark on our child's waist. If you want to know whether Casey is our daughter, just check for yourself. Hearing my words, my mother-in-law immediately lifted Casey's shirt to look. Seeing the butterfly birthmark on her waist, Mark's eyes instantly reddened. He quickly walked up to me and slapped me hard across the face. Emma, are you even human? If you knew the truth all along, why didn't you expose it earlier? Why did you let our daughter suffer so much abuse at Rachel's hands all these years? Mark was furious to the extreme, looking at me with murderous eyes. Other relatives also began condemning me. Is something wrong with Emma's mind? This child is from our family lineage, her own flesh and blood. How could she watch her own daughter being mistreated for so many years without doing anything? What a cold-hearted monster. Knowing this was her own child, she watched her leg get broken and suffer a life worse than death for all these years. Mark, divorce her immediately. This kind of woman doesn't deserve you and isn't fit to be part of our family. The accusations were relentless, and everyone looked at me with contempt and disgust. Even my timid, weak daughter Casey shouted at me through tears, I hate you. With those words, she turned and jumped from the window behind her. The heavy thud from below horrified everyone. Tears also streamed down my face. Finally, it was all coming to an end. After the momentary shock, everyone in the banquet hall rushed downstairs. Mark gave me one more hateful glare before stumbling down the stairs. I silently took out my phone and dialed 911. Hello, I need to report an emergency. My daughter was driven to commit suicide by jumping from a building. After hanging up, I slowly made my way downstairs. Outside the hotel, a crowd had gathered. My daughter lay in a pool of blood, completely still. Mark knelt beside her body, crying inconsolably. Other relatives stood nearby, silently wiping away tears. When they saw me approach, everyone turned their gaze toward me. Anger, disgust, contempt, hatred, all manner of emotions, completely undisguised. You murderer, how dare you show your face here? If it weren't for you, how could your daughter have suffered so much? How could she have been driven to such despair and suicide? People like you who knew the truth but stood by are worse than the abusers themselves. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation, hurling insults at me. My mother-in-law pointed at me and screamed, why couldn't it have been you? Why don't you die instead? As these people continued their verbal abuse, the onlookers who had gathered below gradually pieced together what had happened. When they learned I was a mother who had watched her own daughter being abused for 18 years without intervention, even more hostility was directed at me. The insults grew louder and more vicious. Some street vendors even threw eggs and rotten vegetables at me. People were emotional, all shouting that I was unfit to be human. Many took out their phones to record videos and start live streams, broadcasting my actions all over the internet. Everyone, look at how disgusting this woman is. She witnessed her own daughter being switched at birth but kept quiet about it, acting like nothing happened while raising someone else's daughter. She even watched as her own daughter was abused and had her leg broken without saying a word to stop it. She could have prevented all of this, all it would have taken was one sentence to save her daughter. But she didn't. What was she doing instead? She was busy raising someone else's child and helping the abuser raise a Harvard student. The saddest part is her biological daughter, who couldn't accept the truth when she found out, jumped to her death. Look at her, her own flesh and blood just jumped off a building, and she's standing there expressionless, completely unmoved. Even I, a complete stranger, can't bear to watch this. The live streamers vividly described everything, moving countless internet viewers to anger. They flooded the comments with abuse. What the hell? Is this woman mentally ill? Why would she do this to her own daughter? Yeah, how can there be such a disgusting person in this world? What did her daughter do wrong to deserve such suffering? Her only mistake was being born to such a heartless monster of a mother. Can someone at the scene please beat her to death? I can't take this anymore. Amid the nationwide condemnation, my photo was spread all over the internet. It was edited into black and white like a funeral portrait, with the most vicious curses written over it. At that moment, everyone wished I would drop dead on the spot. And in the midst of everyone's hateful stares, I walked toward my best friend. Seeing me suddenly approach, Rachel tried to maintain her composure and snapped, Emma, I always considered you my best friend. Even though I thought Lily was your daughter, I treated her better than my own child. For you and Lily, I gave my heart and soul for 18 years, sacrificing everything. I even neglected my own child. You knew our daughters had been switched, so why didn't you say anything? Why did you keep my daughter from me for 18 years? You nearly destroyed 2 families, you know that? You're the real culprit here. Rachel was clever. Even now, she continued to act. Despite the fact that all my daughter's injuries came from her. Despite the fact that she orchestrated everything. She still played the role of an innocent victim who knew nothing. She shifted all blame to me. I stared at her expressionlessly and said coldly, "Stop pretending. Isn't this exactly what you wanted?" Hearing me say this, Rachel's eyes clearly flashed with panic, but quickly, she regained her confidence and declared emphatically, "Don't slander me. Do you think accusing me will absolve you of your crimes? Emma, no matter how you try to defend yourself, you're the one who drove your own daughter to suicide." Rachel's words received unanimous approval from everyone present. They began pointing fingers at me again. They berated me for keeping quiet. They demanded to know why I watched my own daughter suffer for so many years. Before I could respond, police sirens suddenly sounded, growing louder as they approached. After arriving at the scene and understanding the situation, the police addressed me and Rachel sternly, "Both of you, come with us to the station for investigation." I spoke calmly, "There's no need for that. I'm willing to confess everything right here." Seeing that I was willing to cooperate with the investigation on the spot, the police didn't object. They recorded as they asked me, "You said you witnessed your daughter being switched. When and where did this happen?" I answered honestly, 18 years ago, on the second day after I gave birth at Memorial Hospital. That night, I got up to use the bathroom. I accidentally saw a nurse secretly switching my baby with Rachel's. The police frowned and asked, "Then what happened?" I glanced at Rachel and continued, "Then I followed the nurse and saw her meeting with Rachel in the hallway after switching the babies. She told Rachel the switch was complete and to rest assured." Hearing this, Mark's eyes instantly reddened as he glared at Rachel. The crowd also erupted, "So it was Rachel who planned all this? No wonder she deliberately targeted Casey all these years. She knew Casey wasn't her child all along. What a venomous woman, to so openly abuse an innocent child." Mark was shaking with anger. He turned his gaze back to me and demanded furiously, "Emma, if you knew your best friend was behind everything, why didn't you speak up? Why did you watch her torture our daughter for over a decade? You had countless opportunities to stop this, to reveal everything. You could have said something." Mark was shouting himself hoarse, emotionally devastated. I looked at him deeply but didn't answer. The police were also puzzled and asked me, "If you witnessed this firsthand, why didn't you intervene then? And why didn't you expose it afterward?" I paused, then said, "Because the time wasn't right." The police frowned slightly, "What would make the time right?" I looked around at all the hateful eyes and the many cameras recording live streams. Taking a deep breath, I said, "Now is the right time." Then I turned to Rachel and asked her deeply, "We grew up together. I always thought of you as a sister. I treated you better than I treated myself. Why do you hate me so much?" Rachel heard my question and couldn't help but laugh coldly, sneering, "Emma, what I hate most is that self-righteous attitude of yours, always thinking you're so good to me. What makes you better than me, Rachel? Why did we grow up together, yet I was always just your shadow? Why were all eyes always on you? Why could you marry into wealth and have such a loving husband, while I could only cling to your shadow, unloved and unnoticed? Why?" Rachel's questions grew increasingly frenzied. She glared at me with reddened eyes, her chest heaving. She seemed to have been containing her feelings toward me for a long time. Looking at this completely unfamiliar best friend before me, I couldn't help but feel a surge of bitterness. Just because of these things? Rachel took a deep breath and said harshly, "Isn't this enough? In this life, I've never been as fortunate as you, but my daughter was raised in your palm, dressed in fine clothes, receiving all your love, while your daughter could only barely survive by my side, being ordered around and beaten like a dog. Everything she wore and used was just the garbage my daughter no longer wanted. Ha ha ha. Every time I saw your daughter treasuring my daughter's discarded trash, I felt extremely satisfied." Toward the end, Rachel broke into laughter again, as if all her humiliation had been vented. Seeing this, Mark couldn't help but roar at Rachel, "Rachel, you ungrateful snake. All these years, whenever Emma had something good, she always thought of you. No matter what she bought, she always remembered to bring you some, afraid you weren't living well. Just because of your petty jealousy, you abused our daughter like this? Are you even human?" Mark was furious. After speaking, he angrily charged toward Rachel. If the police hadn't restrained him in time, he might have torn Rachel apart on the spot. Everyone's emotions exploded. They hurled abuse at Rachel one after another. The livestream comments also scrolled frantically, "This is a classic toxic friend who can't stand seeing you do better than her. I work at a luxury boutique, and I remember them shopping at our store. This toxic friend liked everything she saw, and Emma generously bought it all for her. I was so impressed that I recorded a video and posted it online. Everyone in the comments envied their friendship. Yes, yes, I saw that video. I was so jealous, wishing I could have such a generous best friend. Some people are just ungrateful wolves. Someone was so good to her, and this is how she repays them? At once, everyone directed their anger toward Rachel. But Rachel didn't care about any of it. She looked calmly at Mark and mocked. What good is your barking at me? Is your wife Emma any better? Even tigers don't eat their cubs, yet as a mother, she swallowed the truth and allowed me to abuse your daughter. Who's more despicable? Rachel's simple 2 sentences shifted the mood of the scene again. People once more turned their angry gazes toward me. Mark also looked at me, puzzled. Emma, I know you and Rachel are close, but now our daughter has been killed by her. Can't you just drop this plastic friendship? Tell me honestly, did Rachel threaten you to keep quiet all these years? Or do you have some other difficulty? Whatever the reason, I just want to hear the truth from you. Our daughter was born at the risk of your life. I can't believe you're really so cold-blooded that you could watch her suffer for 18 years. My mother-in-law also looked at me with red eyes. Yes, Emma, you've always been a kind-hearted child. What reason could have changed you like this? Looking at Mark's confused yet desperate expression, I laughed coldly. I stated directly, Mark, as for why I did this, you really don't know. Hearing this, Mark was visibly stunned. He looked at me, confused. What do you mean? Did I do something to upset you? But all these years I've clearly loved you so much. Everyone knows how much I love you. Even if I really did something wrong, you could have just told me directly. I would have apologized and corrected it. Why did you make our daughter suffer through all this? Mark became increasingly distressed, his eyes filled with the disappointment and sorrow of having his sincere love betrayed. I looked at him with an icy gaze and said coldly, Stop pretending, Mark. The night our child was switched, do you remember what you were doing? At my words, Mark's expression suddenly changed. There was clearly a flash of panic in his eyes. But in the next moment, he righteously declared, Of course I remember. During that time I was taking care of you day and night. That night I was completely exhausted, so I went to rest for a while. Just because I wasn't by your side for a moment, you harbored resentment and took revenge on me like this? Listening to Mark's question full of grievance, I couldn't help but mock him with a laugh. He was truly impressive. He could make his performance so convincing at all times. No wonder I was deceived by him for so long without realizing it. During those days when I was hospitalized waiting to give birth, Mark did indeed do as he claimed. He postponed all his work and stayed by my side constantly. He took meticulous care of me, being careful in every way, afraid he wasn't attentive enough. He even held water to my lips for me to drink. During that time, I constantly felt grateful for finding such a perfect husband. I was always warmed by his attentiveness. But that night, after witnessing Mark's actions firsthand, I felt that all his demonstrations of care were utterly disgusting. With a mocking smile playing at my lips, I coldly said to Mark, Yes, you did go rest for a while. Only, you went to rest with the woman you truly love, isn't that right? Initially still harboring a glimmer of hope and continuing to pretend, Mark turned deathly pale upon hearing my words. He stammered, What nonsense are you talking about? You're the only love of my life. I don't even look twice at other women. What woman I truly love are you talking about? Seeing him still pretending, I decided to reveal everything. Since you don't remember, let me help everyone recall it together. With that, I took out my phone and played a video for everyone to see. Though the pixels were blurry, the recording clearly showed Mark leaning over a hospital bed. On the bed lay a woman who somewhat resembled me, completely motionless. Mark held the woman's hand, revealing his true feelings. Nancy, I won't let you down. Emma is just a substitute I found. She can never replace you. I've been by her side these days just to take good care of our child. Thankfully the baby has been born safely. At least that tool served some purpose. Don't worry, the child is from our IVF. You will always be the baby's mother. When you recover, I'll divorce Emma, and the three of us will live happily ever after together. When I saw this scene, my heart was too painful to breathe. I never imagined that Mark, who I thought loved me more than life itself, actually just saw me as a substitute. And the child I nearly died giving birth to was actually his and another woman's offspring. How ridiculous. All those moments of happiness I believed in were completely fake. No wonder Mark started pursuing me so passionately as soon as he saw me. No wonder he always liked to buy me clothes, jewelry, shoes, and bags that I didn't like. It turned out that from beginning to end, he only treated me as a surrogate tool to have his baby. My heart felt as though it had been stabbed, but at that moment, I didn't expose Mark. Instead, I finished recording and walked away. Enduring the severe postpartum pain, I rested in the hallway for a long time. Until I completely accepted the reality, my heart turned to ashes, and I prepared to leave. But then, I accidentally witnessed the nurse switching the babies. So, I didn't intervene. I didn't speak out. I let everything unfold in its karmic cycle. I wanted to see what fate heaven would give these people. For 18 years, I endured and observed. Every time I saw Mark treasuring Lily like a precious gem while Rachel brutally beat his biological daughter in front of him, I marveled silently. I even looked forward to it somewhat. If Mark knew the truth about everything, how would he react? Today, I saw it. Everyone at the scene and countless internet viewers also saw it. Mark glared at me, his eyes bulging. You knew all this from the beginning. So you deliberately didn't reveal the truth? I coldly replied, unmoved, yes, I wanted to watch you all tear each other apart. Watch you all get hurt. Watch you reap what you've sown. This made Mark even more furious. Emma, you bitch, you dared to harm my daughter. I'll kill you. With that, Mark broke through the restraints and lunged at me with a knife. His speed was quick. His force was also very strong. I was completely caught off guard. But just as Mark's knife was about to pierce my heart, a figure shielded me. It was Rachel. She held me tightly, her back deeply stabbed by the knife. Warm blood flowed from her body. As the police quickly subdued Mark, I held Rachel as we collapsed to the ground. Why did you do that? At this moment, I was truly shocked. I never expected that my best friend, who had just cursed and hated me, would unhesitatingly take a knife for me in my moment of life and death. She looked at me with a smile and weakly said, Emma, it turns out your marriage wasn't good. Your husband didn't really love you. This time, I won. Seeing her growing weaker, I felt a mix of emotions. While calling for an ambulance, I comforted Rachel, you won. You always won. Look, I have nothing. But you have your own child, a daughter who makes you proud for life. Rachel smiled slightly and said sincerely, Emma, thank you for taking care of me all these years. And thank you for loving Lily so much all this time. I was foolish and almost harmed you. I'm sorry. After saying this, Rachel lost consciousness. Mark's knife had pierced Rachel's heart from behind. Despite emergency treatment, she ultimately died. Mark was sentenced to death for intentional homicide. After handling Rachel's funeral, I left the city. On the departing plane, I saw a familiar figure. It was Lily. She smiled as she approached me. As I sat stunned, she hugged me tightly and said word by word, Mom, who says you have nothing? You still have me. Thank you for raising me with love for 18 years. Now, it's my turn to love you.